morning and welcome to our latest edition of the Esri National Security webinar series. Today's topic is titled Combating the Opioid Epidemic Using GIS. My name is Carl Walter and I'm the Director of Homeland Security Solutions here at Esri, and I'll be facilitating today's webinar. Our speakers today include Chris Schrank and Daniel Hoy from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, OIG, Office of Investigations. Joining them are Linda Beal, Dr. Linda Beal. Linda is a lead product engineer on our location analytics team here at Esri. Patrick O'Brien, our public safety solution engineer from Esri. And Kenyon Huber-Wilker, also a solution engineer on our defense intelligence team. I'll go over our agenda in just a minute. I first want to discuss some basic background information on what we will be actually presenting. The opioid response obviously involves participants from many public, private, nonprofit entities and more. We're going to cover a lot in this next hour. We certainly can't cover everything. From a data discussion, a data standpoint, the nature of the response to this problem often involves sensitive law enforcement information as well as protected health data. Both law enforcement and health guard this data very closely, and there are no shortage of laws and policies that govern the use of the data. Terms like HIPAA from the health side and CGIS and LES, law enforcement sensitive, from the law enforcement side are terms commonly used in this arena. That being said, please know that our examples today rely on open source data, number one, investigative examples where data has been totally anonymized, values changed, geography has changed. Sometimes we've shifted it up to 1,000 miles. And then in our third example, we had data that was completely manufactured in order to explain what is a very valid investigative workflow. And we did this to protect some of the investigative tradecraft as well as adhere to the policies around HIPAA and the use of law enforcement sensitive data. With all those potential limitations, let's focus on our objective here today, which is to show how GIS technology can help identify problems, understand and interpret problems.
So this type of analysis is very useful and can be used in a dashboarding technique. This dashboard allows us to see the same data and in real time, while these EMS calls are coming in, display this on a web mapping application. I have specific filters, I have a total incident count, I have the locations where naloxone was given, and some breakdowns of the month of the year, the day of the week, and the time of the day of these incidents. Now, how we're using this information is looking at specific areas of influx of 911 calls. So in Northern Kentucky, we are able to correlate that when 911 calls spike in the counties of Boone, Campbell, and Kenton County, this is a probability of a bad opioid batch in the Cincinnati area. Now, directly after this influx of 911 calls in those specific counties, we then see a spike in 911 calls coming from the surrounding counties, which are usually down 75 and out Route 71, where these drugs travel over these.
Video by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection at 3 minutes and 30 seconds, all the signs of a respiratory emergency. Then the officer gives respiratory assist, not like many places teach no respiratory assist and give chest compressions only for a respiratory emergency patient.
Okay. 183, have an EMS assist at 328 West Washington Street.
Breathing.
All right. Ma'am, are you all right? Hey, can you hear me?
Should someone become exposed to fentanyl, some of the signs or symptoms that you would see would be drowsiness or unresponsiveness, slow or no breathing, and then constricted or pinpoint pupils. Those are the signs or symptoms you want to look for in yourself or in your partner or in someone that you're responding to.
She's not breathing. Better call EMS.
960, Hotel 16.
Hotel 160.
Yes, can you get EMS on the way to 301 Jasper Street, room 250?
Sending EMS to 301 Jasper Street, room 250.
They're on their way.
If you think you
So what's working with the site? We've reversed over 168 overdoses. 33% of the reversed with naloxone, 67 have been with other means like oxygen or stimulation. We've called 911 for about half of the 33% of ODs naloxone. So we try not to call 911 unless we absolutely have to. Again, the community is quite, trepidatious about paramedics and police and things like that. It hasn't always gone well. The first time we had to call 911, it was not a great interaction with them. We've had some great interactions with paramedics. We've had some really horrible interactions. And police, obviously, hasn't always been great. And people have been traumatized by these services. So even if it goes well, that doesn't necessarily mean that people feel okay about it when they walk away, even if that interaction has gone well. So we've tried to avoid that as much as possible. And every supervised consumption service over time has started to use naloxone less and less and less, and oxygen and other things more and more and more. And that's what we've had to. And so in the early days, we had to rely on naloxone more, and we found other ways of responding and keeping people safe. The other thing that we can't tell you is we can tell you how many overdoses have happened, but we can't tell you how many overdoses have been avoided. Because when people have a safe place to use and they can take their time, they can measure out their dose, you can start doing it and inject really slowly and wait for it to kick in. They'll be like, oh, I'm really high, I shouldn't do anymore, I'll take it out. Whereas when people are using it in a public bathroom, they're like, okay, I gotta just do this really quick. I gotta get this in me and get out.
Millions of people have been taught to do this and others similar, and they follow orders, killing non-drug overdoses and drug overdoses because the doctors told them to and your government told them to. Pound on a beating heart. And this recovery position can be bad too. You have any of the hundreds of causes of breathing emergency, that's what it is. It's a breathing emergency. You need air ASAP. $1 billion class action suit coming up against the government, and the taxpayer pays for that. You're being mass murdered. You make yourself sick saying nothing because a 5-year-old child knows. That's murder. That's a person's alive. And they instruct millions of people. For some reason, they follow orders and push on a beating heart. I'm showing up to calls all the time. People killing their own children. Utter nonsense. The signs of drug overdose mimic any breathing emergency. It's rescue breathing only. ASAP.